I've never been the jealous type. Ask anyone. I'm the guy who lets my wife pick the restaurant, hold the TV remote, and even throw out the leftovers I was definitely saving for lunch. But the day she came into our kitchen with that smug little smile and declared, "This is not cheating. It's an open marriage," something ancient in me stirred. You know that feeling when you hear a noise in the night and your whole body tenses? Yeah, that. Let me back up. My name's Eric. I'm 38, work in IT, and I thought I had a quiet, if slightly boring, suburban life. My wife, Dana, is 36, works in marketing, and has the type of charisma that makes waiters slip her extra fries and strangers follow on social media her after one conversation. We've been married for 12 years. Stable. Predictable. Until it wasn't. It started with a spa retreat. It's for work, Dana had said, breezing past me with her suitcase in hand. Just a wellness thing my boss set up for the team. Cool. Enjoy your cucumber water and hot stones, I thought. Then it was a weekend getaway. We're brainstorming. Creative offsite. Weird, but okay. Her boss, Brent, was a 40-something divorce with a man bun and an allergy to dress shoes. I didn't love him, but I trusted Dana. Or at least I had until the night she came home glowing like a phone screen at 3 a.m. Eric, she said sweetly, like a teacher about to assign weekend homework, I need to tell you something. I paused the game I was playing, looked at her, and something in her tone made me set the controller down. Brent and I have a bond, she said. Not an emotional one. It's more casual. But it's not a problem, because I've decided we have an open marriage now. She said it like she was declaring daylight savings time. Like it just was now. No need for discussion. I blinked. Since when? She shrugged. I figured you'd understand. Be thankful I haven't left you. You should just accept it. Now, I may not be the most spontaneous guy, but I'm not dumb. When someone tosses a grenade in your lap and tells you to thank them, you don't argue. You smile. You nod. And you slowly set the grenade down somewhere safe. So I said, you know what? Sure. If that's what you need, Dana, then go ahead. She looked relieved. No drama. No shouting. Just acceptance. That should have tipped her off. Great, she said, already scrolling through her phone. Brent and I are going on a 4-week strategy trip to Santa Barbara. Don't wait up. I didn't. The moment she left, I called a locksmith. There's a quiet thrill in planning your own revenge while everyone thinks you're licking your wounds. I wasn't. I was organizing. By the end of day 2, the locks were changed. Utilities were split. Her name removed from the accounts she barely used anyway. The house, inherited from my parents, was legally mine alone. Thank you, prenup. By day 5, I had cleared out the joint savings. My paychecks had been the only deposits for the past 3 years anyway. She could keep her gym selfies and #wellness warrior posts. I was keeping the equity. By day 7, I had company. Her name was Sophie, 29. Sweet, smart, and as disillusioned with open marriage nonsense as I was. She was a friend of a friend, recently out of her own dumpster fire relationship. We bonded over sushi and sarcasm. When Dana finally walked back through that door, sun-kissed and clueless, she expected me to greet her with arms open or tears flowing. What she got was Sophie answering the door in one of my shirts, holding a mug that said, "World's okayest ex-wife." Dana blinked. Who are you? Sophie smiled. This is not your house. Get out. I was in the kitchen, sipping tea, calm as a monk, listening to Dana stammer, watching years of entitlement peel off her face in slow motion. And that, my friends, is how I began reclaiming my life. Dana didn't leave right away. That would have made things easy. She stood there on the porch, blinking like a driver whose GPS had just declared, "You have arrived," in the middle of a cornfield. Sophie, ever the calm storm, repeated, "Get out, or I'll call the police." Dana's eyes flicked to me, like maybe I'd jump in and say, "Haha, just a prank. Come on in, honey." I didn't. I sipped my tea and said, "You wanted space, Dana. I gave you square footage." She didn't like that. "You can't just lock me out of my own house," she hissed. "It's not your house," I replied. "Not legally. Remember the prenup? You wanted freedom. Well, welcome to it." She looked at Sophie again, this time with venom. "Who is she?" Sophie, bless her, just smiled. "The woman you cleared the runway for." Dana stormed off after that. No bags, no dramatic last word. Just a whirl of frizzy hair and the unmistakable sound of a broken ego clacking down the driveway in designer heels. Sophie turned to me. "That went well." I chuckled. "I give it 2 hours before she calls." I was wrong. It only took one. The phone buzzed as we were halfway through a pizza and a rerun of The Office. Dana. Predictably. I let it go to voicemail. 20 minutes later, another call. Then a text. Dana. We need to talk. This isn't fair. Me. Neither is rewriting the rules of marriage while I'm holding the remote. She didn't reply. Instead, her mother did. Yes, her mother. You never really know how deep the rabbit hole of entitlement goes until your mother-in-law texts you demanding you let her precious baby back into the home you own. Eric, I raised Dana better than this. You need to forgive her. Let her come home and fix this. She said. She went on a 4-week vacation with her boss. Not a Target run. I respond. That was a work trip. Tries to justify her. Then her new workspace can be wherever she sets up her tent. I parried. I didn't hear from her again. That night, Sophie and I had a real conversation. Not just surface-level stuff. Turns out, she'd been with someone who pulled the same so-called modern relationship move. Framed it as being progressive. Really, he was just someone good with words, but not so great with honesty. We laughed over how often freedom gets tossed around like a hot potato in these conversations. But really, it's just code for, I want to do what I want without consequences. Dana didn't expect consequences, Sophie said. Most people don't. I nodded. She will. By the end of the week, Dana was camped at her sister's place, trying to triangulate sympathy from family and friends. The narrative changed depending on who she was talking to. Some heard, Eric kicked me out for no reason. Others got, we were taking a break and he replaced me with some girl. She was in spin mode, but I had receipts. I didn't blast them out. That would be petty. Instead, I forwarded a single email to her father. Just one. From Dana to Brent. Dated 3 days before she left. It read, 4 weeks of no strings attached. Think of the freedom. Eric won't care. He's practically furniture at this point. No commentary. No follow-up. Just that. The silence from her father afterward was deafening. I started focusing on rebuilding. The kind of rebuilding you do after a tornado. Not of drywall and roofing, but of trust and boundaries. Sophie stayed over most nights. It wasn't about rubbing Dana's face in it. It was about reclaiming peace, one couch snuggle at a time. Dana tried one last stunt before the month ended. She showed up on a Sunday morning, all tear-streaked and righteous. I want to fix this, she said, hands trembling like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Fix it? I asked, arms crossed. Like how you fixed our vows by editing them without my input. It was a mistake. Brent's a narcissist. He said all the right things. I thought I needed adventure. And now I want my life back. You mean our life? Which you torched. She started crying harder. Sophie stepped beside me then. No words. Just presence. Dana looked between us and realized what she'd truly lost. You already replaced me. I shook my head. You replaced us. I just accepted the vacancy. She didn't scream. She didn't threaten. She just walked away. And this time, I didn't expect a call back. I thought that would be the end of it. Turns out, Dana had one more act in her playbill. It started subtly. Sophie and I were coming back from the grocery store. She was trying to teach me the difference between almond flour and oat flour, and I was pretending to care when we saw the car parked across the street. Dana's car. I knew it before I even saw the vanity plate. B0 Spabe. Looks like someone scoping out the castle, Sophie muttered. I chuckled. She better bring battering rams. We went inside, groceries in hand, and not 2 minutes later came the knock. 3 short raps. Like she was trying to be polite. I opened the door. Eric, she said, already sniffling. I just want to talk. You keep saying that, I replied, leaning casually on the doorframe. Yet every time, it feels more like a monologue. Please, just 5 minutes. Sophie walked up beside me, holding a bag of coffee. That's 4.5 more than she deserves. Dana winced, but didn't rise to the bait. That told me she was desperate. I stepped aside. Talk. But this time I respond. You don't get to narrate alone. She came in, eyes darting around like she was walking into enemy territory. Which, to be fair, she was. I made a mistake, she started. Brent. He wasn't what I thought. Turns out, he was seeing someone else the entire time. I let out a low whistle. Wow. Someone playing both sides? What a shocker. She ignored me. I thought it was going to be freeing. But it just felt empty. Sophie snorted. So you missed the emotional labor your husband provided for free. How touching. Dana glared. Can we speak privately? I shook my head. No secrets here. You traded that privilege for yoga retreats and poolside mojitos with Brent the Enlightened. She wrung her hands. I want to come back. Start over. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed an envelope, and handed it to her. That's a list of therapists, co-living arrangements, and divorce mediators. Pick one. Her face crumpled. You won't even try? Try what? You set fire to the house, Dana. I just called the fire department and put up a fence. She stood there in silence for a long time. Then she left. A week passed. Peace returned. Sophie started staying full-time, and we slipped into an easy rhythm. Morning coffees, shared playlists. Then came the letter. Not a text. Not a call. An actual paper envelope delivered to my office. The handwriting was Dana's. Inside was a 2-page letter, neatly written, equal parts apology and manipulation. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do hope you remember the good times. I miss the way we used to laugh. How you used to make pancakes on Saturdays. I was stupid. I thought I was missing out, but really I just threw away something rare. Sophie read it too. She looked at me and said, "You gonna respond?" I thought about it. Then I grabbed a pen and wrote one line on the back of the letter. The pancakes were gluten-free, just like your loyalty. Then I mailed it back. Around this time, word spread. Not from me, but somehow everyone started finding out. Brent had been getting a little too close with several people on his team, and Dana's retreat ended up sparking all kinds of workplace tension. HR stepped in, and Dana was asked to take a break. She called again. I let it ring. She emailed. I filtered her to spam. Then, the big one, she showed up at my job. Yeah. She walked into the lobby with mascara already running. My coworker Heather came to get me. There's a woman downstairs, she whispered. She's crying. I went down. Dana was sitting on a bench, red-eyed, holding a folder. I brought our wedding album, she said. Why? So I can see the before picture before I walked into a dumpster fire. She opened the folder. Look. Please. Just look. I flipped through it. Our smiles. Our vows. Our first dance. Then a blank page with a sticky note. Let's not let this be the end. I closed it. Looked her in the eye. Dana, I'm not the same man in those pictures. You're not the same woman. And whatever we had, it died the day you said, "Be thankful I haven't left you yet." She covered her mouth and nodded slowly. And that was it. I walked away, not out of anger, but because it was finally over. After Dana's dramatic office drop-in, things finally settled. Sophie and I started calling Sundays our no-drama zone. No phones, no email, just breakfast burritos, bad movies, and sarcastic commentary. It was bliss. But of course, peace doesn't last forever when there are loose ends still flapping in the wind. One of those ends? Dana's name was still on our shared streaming accounts. At first, it was just annoying. I'd log into Site and see her watch history cluttered with crime documentaries and shows where rich housewives screamed at each other. But then one night, Sophie and I were watching a cooking show when the screen froze and a message popped up. This device has been signed out. Too many users. I sighed. Guess someone doesn't want us enjoying risotto tips. Sophie raised an eyebrow. You thinking what I'm thinking? Time to change the password. So I did. And because I'm petty, and I fully admit that, I renamed the profile from Dana to ex-wife. The next day, Dana texted, "Wow. Real mature." Says the woman who went on a passion sabbatical with her boss. Said. She didn't reply after that. Then came the friend drama. Mutual friends always choose sides, whether they admit it or not. Some people faded quietly. Others reached out, trying to be Switzerland. One couple, Jenna and Mark, invited Sophie and me to a dinner party. Jenna had always been more my friend than Dana's, and she made it clear Dana wasn't invited. The evening went great, until dessert. As we were digging into some overambitious souffle, Jenna leaned across the table and asked, "So, is it true Dana lost her job?" I shrugged. "Ask HR. I'm just a guy eating free dessert." Sophie, ever the tactful one, added, "Turns out, lying and cheating don't make for great quarterly reviews." Mark laughed so hard he almost choked on his wine. The next morning, I got a message from Dana. "So now you're talking trash at dinner parties?" "Nah, just eating souffle. Your reputation brought itself," I said. Then came the final blow. It wasn't me. It wasn't Sophie. It was Brent. Apparently, Brent had a pattern. Dana wasn't his first work retreat romance. She was just the latest in a long line of office flings. HR didn't just ask her to take a leave, they launched an investigation. One of Sophie's friends worked in legal and gave us the gist. Brent was out. Dana, likely next. And guess who had screenshots of Brent's not-so-professional messages? Yep, Dana's own coworkers. I didn't gloat. Not publicly. But Sophie brought home a small cake that night with #justice-served written in frosting. We ate the whole thing. A few weeks later, Dana sent one final email. No drama. No caps lock. Just this. You were right. I messed everything up. I hope Sophie knows what she has. I didn't reply, but I did forward it to Sophie. She read it, smiled, and said, I do. And just like that, the last page of the Dana chapter fluttered shut. It wasn't just the emotional kind, either. I mean, have you ever tried deleting a person from your utilities, insurance, streaming services all at once? It's like trying to uninstall an app that keeps saying, some files may still remain. But I was determined. Sophie and I turned the spare bedroom into a study/reading room, which really meant it became the home of our snack stash and board game collection. We laughed a lot. We joked. We lived. One random Thursday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I don't answer those, but something told me to pick up. Is this Eric Montgomery? A voice asked. Speaking. This is Susan with Harper and Avery Law. We're representing Brent Parker. We'd like to inform you that your name has come up in a defamation claim. I blinked. Come again. Turns out, Brent wasn't just fired, he was furious. Apparently, someone had compiled screenshots, videos, and employee statements and shared them anonymously with the board. Brent suspected I was behind it. Spoiler, I wasn't. But man, I wish I had been. I haven't spoken to the board or anyone at that company, I told Susan. My only connection to Brent is that he was the guy who involved with my wife and helped derail her career. There was a pause. Duly noted. Have a nice day. Click. I told Sophie, and she laughed so hard she knocked over her glass of wine. You live rent-free in his head, she said. That's better than revenge. We were walking through a farmer's market the following Saturday, picking out the most pretentious avocados we could find, when I ran into one of Dana's old coworkers. Her name was Claire. Sweet girl, always seemed a bit out of place among the office sharks. Eric, she said, genuinely smiling. I heard everything. How are you holding up? I'm oddly fantastic, I admitted. Turns out not being gaslit every day does wonders for your mood. She laughed. Yeah, Dana kind of unraveled. People still bring it up. Brent, too. Let's just say what goes around eventually comes around. Sophie, ever the master of graceful shade, added, Eric's just focusing on moving forward. And brunch. Claire nodded. Well, just so you know, most people were on your side. Dana thought she was living in some reality where choices didn't have consequences. And now, Claire shrugged. She moved to a smaller place, deleted all her social media. And rumor has it, she's trying to get into a yoga teacher training program. Sophie leaned in and whispered, Namaste away from other people's husbands. Later that night, I got one last text from Dana. Just a single sentence. Did we ever really love each other? Or were we just playing house? I stared at it for a long time. Not out of longing. Not even sadness. Just reflection. Finally, I typed. Maybe a little of both. But one of us stopped playing fair. I text. She didn't reply. And I didn't need her to. Life, as it turned out, had a sweet rhythm to it once Dana was fully in the rearview mirror. Sophie and I took a road trip up the coast. Nothing fancy, just good tunes, open windows, and a shared love for roadside diners that served milkshakes thick enough to break a spoon. Somewhere near Monterey, she looked over at me and said, You don't flinch anymore when you get a text. I laughed. My phone used to give me anxiety. Now it's just memes and weather updates. But even in the calm, small echoes of the past found their way back. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Dana. From her mother. Yep, the same woman who once lectured me on how a real man compromises. Inside was a handwritten note. Eric, I don't approve of how Dana handled things, but she's my daughter. She's struggling. I hope one day you can forgive her. And maybe, one day, be friends. Friends? With the woman who tried to gaslight monogamy into extinction? I set the letter on fire in the fire pit that evening. Sophie toasted a marshmallow over it. It wasn't long after that I ran into Dana. Not in some dramatic way. Just the kind of awkward, run-of-the-mill encounter that life tosses your way like a prank. I was at the hardware store. Sophie and I had finally decided to repaint the living room. I had a paint chip in one hand and a coffee in the other. Eric. I turned. There she was. in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. "Dana," I said with a nod. "You look different, happier." "That's because I am." She nodded slowly, chewing her lip. "I see you and Sophie on social media. She seems good for you." "She is. You were always a good man, Eric. I just didn't know how to appreciate that until—" I cut her off with a raised hand. "Dana, it's fine. Really. I hope you find your own peace. Just, maybe leave me out of the plot next time." She gave a sad smile and walked off. That was the last time I saw her. A few weeks later, Sophie and I had friends over. We grilled burgers, played Cards Against Humanity, and laughed until someone nearly choked on a drink. At one point, as the sun dipped and someone put on a playlist, Sophie leaned over and whispered, "You're glowing, you know." "That's the drink." "Nope. That's the piece of a man who watched his past implode, walked away, and found someone who actually shows up." I kissed her forehead. "Guess I'm lucky then." "No," she said with a smile. "You just finally stopped playing by someone else's rules." And she was right. There's a strange calm that comes when you realize you're done chasing closure. A few months had passed since the hardware store run-in with Dana. Her face, once burned into my every waking thought, was now just another file archived in my mental cabinet. Closed. Unnecessary to reopen. Sophie and I fell into an easy rhythm. She moved in officially, which really meant I lost 80% of the closet space and gained 100% of the peace I'd never known I was missing. We made it work, her candles everywhere, my tools creeping into the kitchen drawers. But one Friday morning, something odd happened. I got a call from my bank. "Mr. Montgomery, we noticed a flagged transaction from your joint account." My eyebrow twitched. "I don't have a joint account. This is regarding the one shared with a Dana Whitmore." Oh, turns out Dana had never removed me from an old credit union account we barely used. She tried using it to rent a cabin in the mountains. "Declined," the banker said, "but we recommend formally closing it." I hung up and muttered, "Of course it was a mountain retreat." Sophie heard me and peeked around the corner, toothbrush in her mouth. "Dana." "Yep. Try to take a little escape. Used a ghost account." She shrugged. "Hope the Wi-Fi's bad and the hot tub leaks." I laughed and called the bank. That weekend, we got brunch with my buddy Kevin and his girlfriend. Kevin had been there through the whole divorce drama. He'd once said Dana reminded him of a company CEO who sells the whole office on a dream right before laying everyone off. "So," Kevin said over Eggs Benedict, "ever think about writing this all down?" I raised an eyebrow. "Like a memoir?" "Why not? You got betrayal, revenge, redemption. All you need is a movie deal." Sophie leaned in. "Title it, 'How I Rebooted My Life After My Wife Rebooted Our Marriage Without Telling Me.'" We all laughed. But that night, the idea stuck. I sat down, opened a blank document, and typed the first line. My wife said it wasn't cheating. Then she packed for a retreat with her boss, and I packed her out of my life. Something about it felt satisfying. About a week later, I got an email. From Dana. Subject line, "Closure." I stared at it for a solid minute. My gut reaction? Delete. But curiosity, the one leftover habit from the chaos, won out. It was short. "Eric, I heard from Claire that you're doing well. I'm glad. I was angry for a while. Thought you were cruel. Now I realize you were just honest. And I couldn't handle it. Thank you for not letting me turn our lives into something worse. Dana." I didn't reply. I didn't forward it. I didn't even mention it to Sophie. Instead, I archived it. Because some things deserve to be remembered, but only in past tense. I didn't plan to tell Sophie about the email. Not because I was hiding anything, but because when you finally build something solid, you stop dragging ghosts into the living room. Still, Sophie could tell. She had that sixth sense women develop somewhere between getting hurt and moving on. "You okay?" she asked over dinner one night. "Yeah," I said. "Just another chapter officially closed." She smiled. "Then let's write the next one." So we did. Summer rolled in like it had something to prove. The kind of heat that made you regret denim. Sophie and I hit the farmer's market religiously. We grilled on weekends. We danced in the kitchen to cheesy 90s pop. Then one Thursday, I got a letter in the mail. Not email. Not a text. A literal paper letter with a floral stamp and my name written in that loopy handwriting I used to see on sticky notes stuck to my Tupperware. "Dana." I rolled my eyes. Curiosity pulled the envelope open before reason could stop it. Inside, a wedding invitation. Her wedding. To some guy named Ian. Beachside ceremony. Eco-friendly. Vegan catering. You're invited, it said, in actual printed ink, like she thought I might show up and clap. I held it up and showed Sophie. She blinked. Oh wow. She's out of her mind. Yep. What are you going to do? Frame it. A few weeks later, the wedding came and went. I didn't hear a word about it. But Kevin texted me a photo someone posted on social media. It was Dana, barefoot in the sand, holding hands with Ian under an arch of driftwood and paper cranes. She looked radiant, like someone who finally got the fantasy she chased. But all I could think was, thank God that's not me. That weekend, Sophie and I took a trip upstate. We stayed in a cabin that actually had working Wi-Fi and a hot tub that didn't leak. One night, we sat under a sky full of stars, wrapped in blankets. Do you ever regret it? Sophie asked. Regret what? Letting it all go. Her. The history. I thought about it. Not for a second. What I miss from back then. I have it now with you. But better. No fine print. No plot twists. She leaned her head on my shoulder. And that was all that needed to be said. If there was a moment that wrapped everything up for me, it came one crisp Saturday morning. Sophie and I were at a local bookstore. She'd gotten into old spy novels, and I was hunting down a first edition of something obscure because apparently I'm that guy now. Peaceful, mundane, perfect. I rounded a corner and nearly dropped the book I was holding. Dana. Again. Only this time she wasn't alone. Ian was with her. Bearded, tall, with that earthy entrepreneur vibe. The guy who probably had opinions about crystals and fair trade hemp. They didn't see me right away. They were browsing a table labeled Conscious Uncoupling and Other New Age Relationship Models. Poetic. When Dana did spot me, her eyes widened for a split second. Then she smiled. Not the smug one. A quiet, almost embarrassed kind of smile. Eric, she said. Dana. Ian. He gave a polite nod. Didn't say much. Sophie rounded the corner behind me. Her arm looped through mine instinctively. Her presence, calm, grounding, 1,000 times more comforting than any vow Dana had ever whispered. Dana took it all in. It's good to see you, she said. And you? I lied with professional courtesy. Ian spoke for the first time. You two look like you're doing well. Sophie smiled. We are. Life's better with clean breakups. Dana let out a breathy laugh. Some of us learn that a little late. Better late than never, I said. But better early than ever, too. We parted ways with awkward goodbyes. And that was it. The last loose thread, seen, acknowledged, and finally, snipped. Months passed. Sophie and I moved to a new place. A little bigger, more light, with a lemon tree in the backyard and floors that didn't creak like they were haunted. She got a promotion. I started writing again. Not just for fun, but seriously. The memoir idea Kevin joked about? I outlined it. Typed 2 chapters. You should post it someday, Sophie said. Not for her. For people like you. The ones who think they're stuck. Think it'll help them? She shrugged. Might. Might just make him laugh. But either way, it's the truth. And she was right. Everything that had felt like ruin turned out to be renovation. The day I hit publish on the memoir blog, I half expected the internet to ignore it. Just another tale in the endless scroll of digital confessions. But the next morning, I woke up to over 10,000 views. By the end of the week, 500,000. Turns out, stories about betrayal, boundaries, and bouncing back resonate. People emailed, shared their own war stories. Some tragic, some hilarious, all of them real. And somehow, my own ridiculous chapter helped others start rewriting theirs. Even Kevin called. Dude, you're a legend. You made internet cry and fist pump at the same time. Sophie, of course, was proud. She printed the whole series and bound it in a little full-leather volume. Title on the spine. When she opened the marriage, I closed the door. We hosted a backyard party the following month. Nothing fancy, just a few friends, some grilled food, a string of lights draped across the lemon tree. Kevin raised a glass at one point. To Eric, for turning rock bottom into a solid foundation. And to Sophie, for being the upgrade no one saw coming. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Sophie leaned into me and whispered, You realize this is our life now, right? Not recovery. Not revenge. Just normal. Yeah, I said. And it's the best plot twist yet. Sometimes I think about that moment in the kitchen, when Dana first dropped the open marriage bomb like it was a coupon code. And I wonder how I stayed so calm. Truth is, maybe I needed to be broken to remember how to rebuild. I lost a wife, gained a partner, lost illusions, gained clarity, lost a fantasy, gained reality. So no, it wasn't cheating, she said, but it was a betrayal. And in the end, it gave me everything I never knew I deserved. And if you ever find yourself staring at the wreckage of a life someone else wrecked, just know, the rebuild is where the real story begins.